it's that old Shakespeare quote, sans eyes, sans teeth, sans everything. Why doesn't that add up? Yeah.
What would be some more higher levels of cognitive processing that are not changed? Like, what would be some examples?
Knowledge, crystallized intelligence, language abilities, vocabulary, mathematical abilities mostly. And this sort of thing was cognitive ability. Doesn't, not tons of change in personality variables probably. Social functioning for most people. And just, work performance and so forth. In general, at least within the typical adult working age range, older adults usually perform at least as well as younger adults on some functional measures in the workplace better than younger adults. Typically because they make fewer mistakes. And young people compensate for making more mistakes by doing things more quickly. So you still have a pretty high level of valuable output from young people, but you have to throw away some of the stuff. Sort of the way it works out. So visual changes, as I said earlier, dark adaptation. What level of illumination do you need to see targets when you're in a darkened room? It's about twice as much illumination for every 13 years of age. This is one of the things that is pretty linear, as you can see, almost perfectly linear. It does start at about age 18. So if you're 31, you should probably start noticing this already. Certainly by the time you get into your 40s, you're probably going to start noticing that dark rooms are darker, or that walking from the light into darkness is a more jarring experience than it used to be. This is just adjusted to it. I can remember taking my daughter to movies when she was young, and I was in my 40s, and just like, walking in from outside in the afternoon into a darkened theater, I couldn't see anything, including her, which was like this far in front of me. A little scary. Of course, she could see because she was like, static visual acuity, the changes in longitudinal studies would suggest that the changes probably start around age 30. People mostly don't notice it a lot until you get up into your 40s, probably.
That means when you're looking at stationary things?
That when you and the target are both standing still. And that's what I experienced for a number of years. This is my late 30s when I started here. I remember about the first 10 years that I was at USC, I started noticing I could see something, or when students were holding a paper in front of me, it kind of gets longer and longer. And you get up about here and you think, in 2 years I'm going to need a longer arm. Or you get progressive lenses. And actually, it's an interesting example, I think, of what age changes are like, because I think my uncorrected vision is still a lot better than the uncorrected vision of a lot of 20-year-olds. But what I find irritating is that it used to be better, and there's tons of things that I used to be able to do without the glasses that I now have to pick up the glasses to do, especially over the years where it hasn't soaked in, and you go like make a household repair, and you're standing there with the screwdriver, and you realize you can't tell whether there's a slot in the screw or what kind of slot it is, and you have to go back and find your glasses. It's irritating. It's not a big deal, but it's irritating. People also look at corrected decline. This is, you have to wear your glasses, and then how well can you do this? After age 70 or so, corrected decline starts to pick up. So Again, this is probably around the time when you're starting to see changes, at least at the level of the retina, optic nerve, and going back in the visual cortex. That's where it changes. Dynamic visual acuity. There's actually getting to be some argument now. Some people that do both. Some people find fairly high correlations between dynamic visual acuity and static visual acuity. But there is quite a fair amount of evidence that it's a different, distinct process, and often worse. This is when either you or the target are moving. Like, this is one that's important when you're driving. Can you read road signs as you're driving past them, or how well can you just see things, smaller things that are in your environment, or things that you, and the more noisy the environment gets, how hard is it for you to see moving targets, or to see targets that aren't moving, you're moving relative to them. What I mean by a noisy environment, you've got dirt on your windshield, you've got rain on the windshield, and windshield wipers running back and forth. All of that's going to make it harder to get the signal in noise. Your visual field, sometimes in your 50s, your visual field starts to narrow. This is, the simplest test is how far in do your thumbs have to be for you to be able to see them while you're looking straight ahead. Also, if you go in, your optometrist does this kind of things with you. They stick your head in this big dome, and they have lights flashing all around the dome around you, and you do your little clicker whenever you can see the light, and they map out what your whole visual field looks like. So the older you get, the more the field narrows this way. So peripheral vision becomes an issue. Think about merging traffic on the freeway, right? You've got somebody coming up the ramp, or you're merging two lanes as two freeways come together. And at least if you don't have really good vision, there's one I do every morning when I drive down from school from Glendale, where by the time you see people, you have to be able to see them out of your peripheral vision. They're about over here. So think about if you're older and you're going to have to turn to see them. You're turning, now you're not looking over here, and you can't see this way because you don't have vision that way. And if you're older and you've got arthritis in your neck, it's also hard to turn. It's hard to turn quickly.
This is the happy half of the course.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. I'm
Really
glad
looking
it's going to
forward to
get better.
Talk about this. There's also Carlene Ball at the University of Alabama has had a whole, one of the Roy Ball Centers for Applied Gerontology has had a whole thing going too about yet another piece of this phenomenon. It's similar but different. This is just what can you see when you're not distracted or anything. There's also an issue of the usable visual field, which is how much of the visual field do you actually attend to. And so you may be able to see something over here, but do you actually process it? That also gets smaller as you get older. And the specific tests that they use a lot of it is focused on driving situations. So you have people coming in, like an intersection with, there's cars coming from here, and there's cars over there, and there's a kid running out from the street over here, and there's a bicycle rider coming in this way. And how much of that can you respond to? It's less and less. Shoot, I don't think they've actually gotten this way. At one point, it looked like a lot of state DMVs are going to adopt Carlene's useful field of view test, but I don't know if that's really taken off. It's expensive. States are going broke. But there's a really good argument that what we actually test in drivers is not the most important thing that you want to know about driver sensory. Because we'll talk about it either today or next week. What do you think, after you get done with these lectures, what do you think about old people driving? Color vision actually ends up being trickier than the standard That takes some